searching quite to understand.
Is there a war coming in the Middle East? Are we headed toward a one-world government, a one-world religious system? Will America be attacked again? Do ancient prophetic texts warn of a time we are living in? Are we in the last days, the time of Jacob's trouble, the end of the world as we know it? And what are the increase of UFO sightings? While we may disagree as to what is causing the phenomenon, we can agree that it is real, burgeoning, and not going away. Is this the coming great deception that ancient prophecy warns us about? Does time seem to be accelerating? Join me, your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, as we explore these and other riveting and stimulating topics. This is Acceleration Radio.
Understand why. Endless searching cry to understand why. Endless searching cry to understand. Flying in the night car. Flying in the night car. Flying in the night car.
Hey folks, welcome to another exciting edition of Acceleration Radio. Special guest, it's a pre-record. I was at a conference in Ohio called Go There for a Conference over the weekend. Great conference, some wonderful speakers, and a good friend of ours, Carl Teichrib, and his lovely wife Leanne were also there. Carl's got a new book. It's called Game of Gods. And while I have not read it yet, Carl and I discussed this in about a 25-minute sit-down interview. And right after the break, we will play that interview right here on Acceleration Radio. I think you'll find it absolutely fascinating and interesting. Carl goes to places that most Christians think about but never go, like Burning Man. He's been there numerous times. He goes to pagan festivals. He goes to New Age festivals. And the reason why he does this, and just so you know, folks, like 25, 30 years ago, as the Lord was reopening all of my occult underpinnings, New Age underpinnings that I had before I became a Christian, I went to these New Age fairs, New Age Expo in Los Angeles, places like that, just to talk to people, because I felt I had come out of the New Age, and now I was a Christian. So I've been on both sides of the aisle, and Carl Teichrib is very similar to that. While he didn't get as deep as I did with gurus and meditation and joining the ashram, he knows about it. And so he's sort of the in my opinion, the go-to guy when it comes to all things Burning Man, New Age. He's sort of like a modern-day Constance Cumby, and we interviewed Constance a while back. It was a real privilege. Actually, it was last year to interview her and get her take on where we are. But I think you'll find the interview absolutely interesting. But let's move on here. I get a lot of email from people, and first of all, I want to thank you for sending emails to me that, you know, I can't see everything. There's no one person can. So you're my little spiders out there, and some of you alert me to these kind of headlines. Now, in all honesty, this one I had seen. It was right up on Drudge Report. I check Drudge 3, 4, 5 times a day. So it was nothing that had escaped me. But a lot of articles do. And I want to thank all of you who send emails to me, because it keeps me in touch with situations and stories and developments that, frankly, I want to and need to stay abreast of. So about, 7 or 8 years ago, there was an article once again on Drudge, and scientists in the UK destroy human-animal hybrid embryos. Ta-da! And they listed like 150 or 175 that they destroyed. And I blog about this, and I said, that's really interesting. I get it. But how many of them did they leave? In other words, we have the movie that came out a while back that talked about animal-human hybrids. And this was chilling, because it makes you wonder just what's really going on in dark underground labs that are run by a bunch of Darwinists who don't believe in God. There are no moral absolutes. There is no moral compass. There is no right or wrong, good or evil. So when you've got that as your worldview, anything goes. You can do whatever you want to do. There are no ethical situations. It's situational ethics. In other words, well, we can, let's see what happens if we grow this embryo out and see what it looks like. Maybe we'll even birth it. So that's what's going on here. And now what we see is human-animal hybrids to be developed in Japan after ban controversial lifted. So once again, in my opinion, this is a sign of the times. Jesus warns us it'll be like the days of Noah. So most of you will go, LA, what does this possibly have to do with the days of Noah? This is why the book of Enoch, in my opinion, is so important. Enoch tells us in Enoch 1 that these fallen angels, the 200 watcher angels, which fell in the days of Jared on Mount Hermon, sinned against the animal kingdom. What does that mean? Genetic experiments? Exactly what's going on. They were creating chimeras. I believe, I would posit, I would put to you this, that these animal human hybrids are part of what we know now as Greek mythos: centaurs, minotaurs, fauns. In the Katy Perry video, which I've talked about numerous times, the E.T. video, at the very end, when she sort of disrobes, she's got this long train and she's wearing it as she walks towards this dystopian earth where it's been destroyed, but she lays her hands on the visor of this sarcophagus, for whatever lack of a better terminology. And this thing raises up and really rises from the dead in some ways. And it's this man, and she is in love with him. At least it appears that way, because at the end they're holding hands. But when she disrobes, we finally see what she really is. She's a hybrid. She's a chimera, a human-animal hybrid. From the waist up, she has the body of a woman. From the waist down, the legs of a fawn. That is in your face, Genesis 6. It is absolutely deliberate. So what we see here, human-animal hybrids to be developed in Japan after ban controversy lifted, what are they really going to do? I mean, do we really trust the scientific community? Really? Seriously? I'm really going to trust a bunch of Darwinists in some deep, dark underground lab doing all sorts of things? Now, look, the Japanese guys may be doing it, all on the up and up. I get that. But I would put to you that in places like Dulce, New Mexico, maybe perhaps even Area 51, and we'll get to that in a little bit, that this type of experimentation has already gone on literally for decades. Literally for decades. So, we got to keep an eye on this stuff. What excites me is when Jesus, circling back here, when Jesus warns it'll be like the days of Noah, as I just talked about the book of Enoch, that was in the days of Noah, when the watcher angels come down right before the flood and sin not only against mankind by creating this hybrid being known as the Nephilim, this unholy union between the fallen angels and the women of earth, creating a hybrid known as the Nephilim, but also sinning against the animal kingdom. And what I find interesting is this is exactly what's going on today. So we have our Savior's words of warning that'll be like the days of Noah, similar to the days of Noah, not exactly like the days of Noah, but similar. There will be markers. I would posit or put to you that this is a marker. This is a huge marker. Human-animal hybrids to be developed in Japan after ban controversially lifted. Supporters say research can be vital first steps towards growing organs that can be then transplanted into people in need. Lovely. So, as I promised, what's in Area 51? Storm Area 51 that can't possibly stop us all. I've heard that there's upwards of 1 million people that have signed up for this or are willing to go. Look, I've been to the Little Alien, I think 3 times now. And yeah, 3 times. And I got to tell you, there's one road. I think it's a 2-lane highway, and it's straight and it goes for miles. And that's your access to Area 51. So Rachel, Nevada is a little dot on the map, literally. They got great hamburgers, by the way, at the Little Alien. But there's no way you can get 1 million people storming that area. First of all the feds would need to do would be to close off the road on both sides, and that would be it. In other words, they would only let people that had a license, a vehicle license, showing that they lived in Rachel, Nevada. Everybody else couldn't get through. So you got 1 million people here. It's be very interesting to see what happens, but I would put to you that more than likely, nothing is really going to happen with this storming Area 51. I actually talked about that years ago, and I said exactly that. They can't stop all of us. Look, do they have stuff there? More than likely they do. I would put to you that the better place to storm would be Wright-Patterson. That's where all the good stuff is. How do I know that? Because I've heard from multiple witnesses, some of them deathbed confessions, that debris from crashed UFOs are held at Wright Pat. I would also put to you that the retrieved bodies from so-called aliens, the Greys, are also housed at Wright Pat. So instead of going to Area 51, I would suggest going to Wright-Patterson. There's a lot of access points there, and that would be a fun thing to do. The bottom line is this. There is a shadow government. This shadow government has been in power, the deep state, since the Eisenhower administration. When Eisenhower warned us that the military-industrial complex is a new entity, a new creature, as it were. And that thing's never gone away. And I believe that the deep state, i.e., the military-industrial complex, may have been complicit in the JFK assassination. You got to understand that Nazis were paper-clipped. What I mean by that, their dossiers were cleaned up, and they were given admittance to our intelligence community and our scientific programs. So Werner von Braun is a perfect example of that. So all this to say that something has been going on with the deep state, and it doesn't matter who's elected. In fact, when I was contacted by a spook from the deep state, he told me, he said, L.A., we don't care who's elected. It means nothing to us. 4 years, 8 years, we've been around here for decades. We can weather 4 years or 8 years. Who cares, right? That's what he told me. They're bastions of power, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA. All these are bastions of power. And the government was never, ever created to have this type of literally fiefdoms within our government. And now we know, and I'm branching out here with the whole phony Russie dossier, the Struck Page, Russian collusion nonsense that they promulgated. The fact that Mueller, when he stood up in front of Congress just a few short days ago, seemed dazed and confused, as the Drudge Report reported, or basically told us, dazed and confused. It makes one wonder whether Mueller actually even wrote the report. So all this is manipulated, in my opinion, by the DNC, Hillary Rodham Clinton campaign for president. And there is a body count with the Clintons. Rush Limbaugh's talked about it. Other people have talked about it. There is a body count with the Clintons. Why is Donna Brazile, why was she afraid for her life? Why was the 2016 Democratic primaries manipulated by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who later stepped down? But guess what? She's still in there. She's still, an inside track. So the Democrats, and I'm going to digress here just a little bit, have really nothing to offer but higher taxes, somehow giving everyone health care. How's that going to work? It's going to break the bank completely. Oh, we're going to tax billionaires and wealthy, good. You can keep taxing people to a point, and then at some point they just move all their assets offshore. Or they move out of the state, like California is a perfect example of this. More people are leaving the golden state of California than coming back into it. Why? Higher taxes. More people are leaving the state of New York and going elsewhere. Why? High taxes. People are fed up with paying it. So all the Democrats do is tax and spend, tax and spend, tax and tax and tax. You'll notice here, this is a shot that someone, a fan, gave to me. That's Bigfoot. And very large footprint there. When you're out in the woods and you're all alone and you suddenly see a large footprint, you may be in the need of a cryptozoologist. But you've got one right here with L.A. Marzulli. That's the real deal, in my opinion. Sasquatch, we had Ron Moorhead a while back. You can check that out on our YouTube, talking about his research with quantum Bigfoot. The idea that these entities pop in, pop out. Ron believes, as I do, that these are Nephilim, and they have the ability to appear and disappear. They can manipulate space and time in ways that we can't imagine. When people get too close to these creatures, you can get brain fog, which also is analogous to the whole UFO abduction thing, and also demonology. But you can see the toes. It's kind of hard to see, but way up in the top here, there are the toes, and they're clearly imprinted. And this guy, there were several prints like this in the ground, and he sent me this photograph, and I want to just thank him for doing that. So, Baltimore Mayor Bernard Young said Monday that President Donald Trump should send federal assistance to the troubled Maryland city instead of criticizing its management. Though the mayor's budget is already spending $66 million in federal grants this year alone, where does the money go? Is there any auditing system for the $66 million? I mean, you could take that $66 million, and I think there's like 300,000 people living in Baltimore, and just give it to the people which is what everybody wants anyway, free stuff. Where does the money go? Get this. As the Washington Free Beacon reported, the Obama administration allotted $1.8 billion of its 2009 stimulus to Baltimore. $1.8 billion. Of the investment, $26.5 million was aimed at crime prevention. $26 million was to revitalize vacant buildings, and $9.5 million to tackle homelessness. Where's the audit? Where did the money go? $1.8 billion. Where did the money go? Where's the audit? Why is Baltimore still the same rat-infested hellhole, with all due respect, than it was in 2009? Where did that money go? So throwing money at Baltimore isn't changing doodly squat. It's obvious. $1.8 billion? Are you kidding me? Are you flipping kidding me? And this year, $66 million. And these people whine, where does the money go? My gosh, I mean, with that kind of money, you can renovate the schools. You can do stuff. But because it's poorly managed and there's rampant corruption, and the citizens of Baltimore tell us this themselves. Look, I feel for the people of Baltimore. I can't change it. And throwing money at it, if $1.8 billion can't fix it, then we have a much bigger problem. We really do. You know, you could fix the schools. It starts with education. If a person doesn't know anything or doesn't learn anything, how can they get a job? Anywhere. And of course, this is the problem what's happening on our border. People from South America, many of them with a fourth grade level education, have no skills. They can't do anything. They don't know how to do anything. That's why education is the key. Some people will say, well, you know, the education system is a white man's education. Look, folks, you know, you can say what you want, but modern civilization came from the United States of America and Europe. That's where it came from. Think about it. Who created the automobile? Who invented the airplane? Who invented refrigeration? I mean, I could go on. How about the medical advances? Where does it all come from? You know, so before we start throwing out Western civilization, let's look where the modern world actually, the springboard from it came, I can make a strong case, came from the Protestant Reformation, came from the fact that men had liberty to pursue the dreams that they had. I mean, no one was telling Edison, you've got to take all your money and give it to a bloated federal government, and we're going to tax you to death. No one was doing that when Edison was trying to invent the light bulb, or Tesla with all his stuff. People came here, they had a dream, but it stems from the Protestant Reformation. That's where it really comes from, in my opinion. And Europe had a hand in it too. But the modern world and what we enjoy, never forget this, comes from the United States and Europe. So it's a Eurocentric worldview. And of course, if I say that, I'm a racist. That's all they ever throw at us. But that's the truth. Where did the automobile come from? Where did the combustion engine come from? Where did surgical techniques come from that we use today? Where did the laser come from? Who invented the airplane? Who invented the thermostat? If you look around at the modern world, refrigeration, the train, the automobile, I mean, come on. The things that we enjoy today come from this Protestant Reformation, which served as a springboard. So, 1.8 billion, we've got problems here, folks. I want to get into this. This is the new book, On the Trail of the Nephilim. You can see how heavy it is, and it's got over 600 pages. I think it's like right around, $599. So it's about 602 or 3 pages. It's a very heavy book. We sold out of these at the conference. Give you an idea here, full color, and that's the baby skull that we unwrapped. You can see Senior Juan on the other page holding it. So it's On the Trail of the Nephilim, and I want to give you a taste of what you will find. Ancient megalithic structures, Nephilim architecture. This is Sacsayhuaman, and that picture came right from On the Trail of the Nephilim. And you can, if you're interested in this, you can procure your own copy. We just got them in by going to www.lamarzulli.net. lamarzulli.net. Look at Sacsayhuaman at 12,000 feet above sea level. I've been there several times, and it's absolutely mind-boggling. You can see the little person down on the left side of the screen here. It's absolutely incredible. Look at these megalithic stones. Look at the cyclopean architecture. Herculean efforts. Look at the stones, the way they're placed together. Now, modern-day archaeologists insist that the Inca were master stone builders. All the Inca had was copper chisels. We actually had someone, and if you're watching this, please send me the clip again. I have it somewhere, but I'm not sure where. So this guy is a gemologist, and he had a piece of andesite, and he created a copper chisel. And he shows 1, 2, he shows the copper chisel completely dull. So this is andesite stone here that you see behind me at Sacsayhuaman, and that's our good friend Ron Moorhead right there. He's the guy who wrote Quantum Bigfoot, and Ron was down there and helped us with expenses. Look at the size of a stone right next to him. Ron's about 6 feet tall, so you're looking at about 18 feet, something like that. 14 feet, but remember the stone is also buried, and we don't know how far down that stone actually goes down into the foundation. Look at the stones that nestle next to it, and you'll see that the stones are so tightly fit that you can't put a credit card or a slip of paper or basically anything between them. Look at the polygonal shapes, and it begs the question, how was this done in the Neolithic, basically thousands of years ago, 3,000 years ago, 3,500 years ago, or even if it's older, and I believe, as Steve Quayle and others believe, that this could be, and more than likely is, a pre-flood site. So this is, in my opinion, Nephilim architecture, fallen angel technology. The technology that was used to build Sacsayhuaman is no longer here. I've shown this to architects and stonemasons, and they look at me nervously. Look at the size of these stones here, and think to yourself, how were they moved when the quarry is miles away? How are they moved? How are they cut? How are they transported? And you'll notice above it, and right over, let me see if I have a better shot of it. Hold on. Yeah, you can see here, look basically slightly to the left of the screen, right there. That is Inca. And what the Inca people did is they took the indigenous stones from around the area, and you'll notice that they're head size. They're nothing even close to the Cyclopean stones, these huge megalithic stones that we see. So that's a fill-in. And the stonemanship and the work, and you'll notice it's a completely different type of stone than what we see here. Look at the joinery. Absolutely off the hook, incredible. Look at that, folks. Look at that. All these pictures came right out of this book, On the Trail of a Nephilim. On the Trail of a Nephilim. And the cover also says, definite proof of the biblical giants, giant skulls, 9-foot skeletons, ancient monuments, www.lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net. Folks, before we get to the break, one of the most important things I can do is talk about our sponsor, Jingos. Hey folks, www.buyjingos.com, buyjingos.com. This stuff really works. Dear LA, I am writing this brief note to express my complete satisfaction with Jingos. Here's the deal. My grandson recently soiled a white shirt with water ice. Initially, I thought I would toss the shirt in the garbage, but my wife reminded me of our recent Jingos purchase and suggested that we give it a try. I must say I was absolutely satisfied with the results. I'm completely satisfied with the product, and I'm so very grateful for the recommendation by you. We watch you on YouTube daily, thank you, and I've learned a great deal. Neil and Valerie, look at the shirt, folks. Look at the shirt. Before and after. This is what's great about this. If you've got a Jingos testimony, shoot it to me. or la@lamarzulli.net, la@lamarzulli.net. I'll read it right here. Folks, Jingos, this stuff really works. But wait, I wanted to give one more. This is from Barbara Ann. We have a big part Doberman dog who loves to sunbathe and roll around in the yard. He also hates baths at home, so we have a girl with a van that comes to give him a bath. Occasionally, we forget to wash his beds and his collar on bath day. Well, remember Jingos and sprayed his beds and his collar. No more wet, sweaty, bad smell to any of it. His last collar smelled so bad, I was going to throw it out, but remembered Jingos. I love it. We have also used it on old spots in our living room carpet where the dog would get sick. Works great on stains, soils, and odors too, Barbara Ann. Ladies and gentlemen, www.buyjingos.com. Buyjingos.com. This stuff really works. And folks, we have a sponsor, and we love this. We love these guys. We know the owner of the company. It's made here in America. Don't let the New Zealand accent fool you. It's made in America. But what are you waiting for, America? Give Jingos a try. www.buyjingos.com. One more thing before we get to Carl Teichrib. I will be at the True Legends Conference answering the alien question. Branson, Missouri. Steve Quayle, is putting this on. Gen 6 Communications, September 13th to 15th. This is huge. 3,000 people. Look at the speaker lineup. Quayle, Alberino, Marzulli, Klotsky, Gary Stearman, Michael Schratt, Hugo de Garis, and George Knapp. It's going to be a romp, folks. If you haven't purchased your ticket, I exhort you, I admonish you to go to TrueLegends.com, TrueLegends.com. Get your tickets today. I will see you there. I was there 2 years ago. Incredible conference. 3,000 people. We had a line of ministry that was, 100 people long. We will do the same thing again this year. Thanks for watching Acceleration Radio. Keep it right here. We'll see you with Carl Teichrib and this riveting interview about his new book, Game of Gods, on the other side of the break.
Lying in the night car, blue canopy below. Then a searching cry holds the one who lies there.
Every 2 seconds, someone needs blood. Whether it's a natural disaster or one single child suffering from illness, the American Red Cross stands ready to supply blood when it's most needed. But blood is a perishable product. Therefore, it must continuously be replenished. You can safely donate blood every 56 days. The need is constant and patients are waiting. Call your American Red Cross at 1-800-GIVE-LIFE to schedule your life-saving appointment. Please give blood today. Patients are depending on you.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied, but you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
By jingoes, it's amazingly fresh and clean out here in beautiful New Zealand. G'day America, I'm Tarby, and I want to tell you about my new ultimate stain and odour remover, Jingos. My Jingos gunk gobblers will tackle stubborn organic stains and eliminate nasty stinking odours at the same time. Jingos effectively removes those little accidents like wine, coffee, dirt, blood, grass, even pet stains, and odours like fish, garlic, even skunk. Jingos is environmentally friendly, safe for use on fabrics, carpet, upholstery, and it works great as a laundry pre-soak on the worst pet or people accidents. Come on America, what are you waiting for? Just go online and order your Jingos for $12.95 and get a 4-ounce travel pack free. Crikey, pay $19.95 and I'll double your order. That's 2 large Jingos and 2 travel packs for just $19.95. Blasted seagulls, where's my Jingos?
I'm here with a friend of mine, author and adventurer, lecturer, Carl Teichrib. And Carl, you've written a book. This is your first one, Game of Gods. I have skimmed it, in all honesty. I have not read it yet, but there's so much information in here. And I want to just start the interview without going into your past and everything else. I just kind of want to jump into who you are. I remember 30 years ago, I used to go to New Age conventions, and it was kind of interesting. I got caught a lot of flack from my Christian brothers and sisters, but you spend literally
days, hundreds of hours doing this, and thank God you do it. You're a scout. You go out, you get information, you've compiled this incredible book. Why? What's the impetus?
Oh, why? Golly, number one, to help the Christian community wake up and understand the context of the changes that we see all around us all the time. LA, you know this just as well as everybody else does. We're in the midst of all kinds of social confusion, chaos. Everything is up for grabs. Where did this come from? How did this happen? Even here, we're talking right now at a conference in a back room, and the conversation we've had.
It's not that back.
No, I know. It's in the corner. It's in the corner.
There you go.
But some of the conversations we've had already is the question, how did we get here? We're helping you figure that out. It's actually observable. It's traceable. It's understandable. Are we willing to take the time to do it? Are we willing to take the time so that as Christians, because this is written primarily for the Christian audience, though a non-Christian can read it, and is written for the non-Christian community too, but primarily from the Christian point of view, are we willing to be ambassadors for Christ? And to be an ambassador for Christ means that we understand the culture well enough that we can present the message of truth into that culture. I know the Apostle Paul talks about us being ambassadors. Not a lot of people, I think, grasp what that means. To be an ambassador means you're the legal, official, lawful representative of your king, literally the King of Kings, regarding us as Christians. And in that case, you need to know the king's position. That requires knowing God's word. But an ambassador also studies the culture too, so that you can effectively communicate the king's message into a culture that may be benign, or it may be hostile, and in our case, growing more hostile, it seems, all the time. And so I wrote it in part because of the big question of how did we get to where we are today? Well, let's wrestle with that. Here's some context. Let's begin the journey.
Interesting. I know that when I was 13 years old and the Beatles exploded on the scene, and it all seemed innocent at first, I want to hold your hand and she loves you and all this kind of stuff. But it quickly got into the whole pharmakeia of drug taking, the lawlessness, the promiscuous sex, everything went, the abortion was passed right around, the abortion laws were passed around the same time. This was like, it's pivotal in some ways. But the Beatles brought in Eastern mysticism. And I remember there were no yoga classes when I was 13. That didn't exist. And so Russ Dizdar talks about this, that in the 60s, the greatest influx of occult literature and Eastern mysticism crept in. And what amazed me then, I was kind of dumbfounded why my parents, who were raised Catholic, and I was raised Catholic, but they didn't push back at all. They had no answers to it. And looking back at this, it's horrific, the fact that even the church didn't really push back, per se. Your thoughts?
You're right. You're absolutely right. The Christian community did not push back. We did not see or recognize the challenge of the day. We were blinded to it. There was a notion, and it still exists today. This is sometimes, I know the work you do, the work I do, the work others here as speakers in this conference, what we deal with so often is dealing with a Christian environment that says, I don't want to know, don't tell me, I don't really care, just let me watch my football game or whatever the distraction is for the moment. But the Christian community then, as a Christian community now, what we have done is we have blinded ourselves, and so we have been uninformed about the challenges. I remember doing this type of work. I mean, I've been doing this full-time since 1997, okay? So I've been around the block a little bit.
Yeah, I would say a lot more than a little bit.
And I mean, in terms of where I want to go right back to where I began doing the research was 92. Mm-hmm. But the thing that has struck me all the way along is there is this sense in the Christian community of, well, it's over there somewhere. It's those people. It's the marginal. It's the freak. It's the hippie. It's the sideline. It's the shadows. And I know in the late 1990s, I had a lot of that. I would talk to people about this. I would write about this, and there would be the proverbial nice guy. Yeah, good. Yeah, right.
Way to go.
Come on.
But
Yeah.
it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. You know, that's over there. It's not really as bad as you think it is. Garbage. Now it's in your living room. Now it's in your bedroom.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And it's not a surprise. It is, however, a consequence of the fact that as Christians, we were dropping the ball 50 years ago. When I was born in '68, we really were already dropping the ball. I think of the handful of people that were doing anything to try to raise awareness was Francis Schaeffer.
Constance Cumby.
Yes. And
little later, yeah.
she was in the 1980s.
Right.
You know, then I think of Gary Caw, Dave Hunt, Barrett Chose in the 1990s. I was doing research work for them at that point in time. Yeah, and here we are now, 2019, and it is everywhere. We're soaking in it.
What amazes me now, and we see this, we see that there's a thing, there's yoga classes at churches.
Yes.
And I mean, I've gone toe to toe with some of these women. Well, I'm just doing positions. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing occult about that. And what they don't understand is this is taken right out of Hinduism,
right,
and sandwiched in with Christianity. And you can't be doing the serpent motif or the serpent stance and not expect something to happen. Well, I've been doing this for 10 years, LA, and nothing's happened. Well, you don't know that. You don't know what you've opened yourself up to. Speak to that.
Well, you know, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was at the 2015 Parliament of World Religions in Salt Lake City. Okay, after the Parliament was done, and I break a little bit of that down in the book. After the Parliament was done, I went to the Lotus Temple, south of Salt Lake City. Everybody thinks of Salt Lake City as Mormonism. Yes, absolutely, it's the world headquarters for the Mormon Church. But just south of Salt Lake City by about an hour is one of the larger Krishna temples in the U.S., right in the heart of the most concentrated Mormon county in America. I know, right. Exactly. So I went there. I spent some time there. I had to listen to the guru as he gave a little talk. I ate some wonderful Indian food. I love Indian food.
I love Indian food too.
It was
delicious.
Good stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then could spend some time looking around the temple and taking pictures, that type of thing. But this is what struck me, and I talk about it in the book. The guru, he said to me at one point, he says, we are evangelizing the West. We are evangelizing the West. And we're doing it through yoga and the Holi Festival of Colors.
There you go.
And we are evangelizing the West. We are being Easternized, not in the sense that we are joining an ashram, not in the sense that we are joining a religion that is particular to the East, Hinduism, but we are being Hinduized in spirit.
I agree.
And that's what we have become.
You know, I find it alarming that, and I've talked about this, I believe that the Christian church needs a reformation. And what I mean by that is, you can go pretty much into any church on any Sunday in America, and there's a formula. It's completely, utterly formulaic. And usually it's a couple of fast songs, the worship team, it's great, and people stand up and they clap and they sing a few more songs, and then there's like a meet and greet real quickly right after that. Turn around and say hi to your neighbor, greet someone you don't know, and then someone gets up and reads the announcements. Usually the assistant pastor will do that. The men come forward and retake the offering. Sometimes there's special music or a little video or whatever, and the pastor gets up and speaks for 20, 25 minutes or whatever, 30 minutes. A fast song at the end. There's a Wednesday night Bible study. I encourage you to come out for that. We'll see you all tonight for the evening service. Everyone's dismissed. The point I'm trying to make is there is, as Russ Dizdar would say, less than 10 seconds of corporate prayer. No one waits on the Spirit of the living God. So there's this complete disconnect, and Jesus warns us of this, and people can take issue with this, but the bottom line is our Savior tells us that in the latter days, basically, I'm sort of paraphrasing here, they'll have a form of religion but deny its power. We have completely denied the power of the Holy Spirit, which is what drives us and everybody else that I know. But in a corporate meeting like this, there is no waiting on the Spirit, and the charismaniacs have taken it into the theater of the absurd, with people running around, yelling and screaming, where Paul tells us it should be done decently in order. My point is this, all of that to get to this question: where are the youth at these conferences that you and I are attending?
They're not here.
And why is that?
They are not here.
Why is that? And where are they going?
Great question.
Where are they going?
I know where they're going.
Where they're
going.
So all that to get up to this, and it's really important.
Yes.
That's the background.
Okay. Chapter 14 in my book is all about evolutionary transformational culture. That includes everything from big mega events like Burning Man to the rave that's happening down the road, all kinds of different interrelated festivities of oneness. Your youth are running towards that.
Why?
Oh, it is experiential. It is exciting. I know.
Right there. There's the word, experiential.
It is experiential. It is exciting. It is ecstatic. There's all these aspects to it. That doesn't mean it's grounded in truth, not at all. But there is something that draws them there.
That's right.
There is an energy. There is an aspect that they are now attracted to. When I go, and I've done this on a couple of occasions where I've gone to different transformational events. A regional Burning Man. I did this at a rave. It was more of a transformational, kind of a small transformational festival, where I do surveys, on the ground surveys. In my survey, and these are social surveys, LA. You have your place for your demographics, age, male, female, other. I make sure that's there. All the stuff that's
You're
there.
like a platypus today, please. Just address me by Mr. P.
Yes. I know. But hey, this is the age we're in, right? It's the age of confusion.
Exactly.
Really. And you have a spot for your education, which is, they're mostly educated people, by the way, all right? Bachelors, masters, sometimes doctorates, okay? And they're not all just young people. Everybody's searching. But this is where young people seem to go. At least a lot of the people I've interacted with. And then I have a list of 20 religions, including a spot for other, and you can place your past religion and your present religion, and then you can chart it and mark it down as your life experience kind of fits on the page. And over again, it's past Christian, past Christian, past Christian, present atheist, present Buddhist, present Wiccan, present transhumanist, present everything else. It's pretty interesting when you spend time doing these surveys, and then I like doing it where there's 3 or 4 people doing the survey all at the same time, as I can now listen as they interact and say, oh, I was part of such and such a youth group. And you realize that in the conversation, they weren't just simply cultural Christians, they were attending church. They had invested in it, and now they walked away. In another similar situation, I've gone to a number of pagan, and you know this, I've gone to a number of pagan events, including conferences done by witches, witchcraft conferences, okay? And I was in one in March of this year. And again, at this one in March, and as in other ones, the question of what religious background have you come out of? And people in the room, by far the majority, come out of a Christian background. Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, I was a Pentecostal, on and on it goes. Lutheran, the list goes on. And as I'm listening, LA, I'm going, oh. We've run from Christ, the author of life, which should excite us. From the one who rose from the dead, and Jason Mankey, a well-respected Wiccan historian and one of kind of the new lights in the Wiccan community. I've read a lot of his stuff and went to a number of his workshops, and he makes a very interesting point. How do you as Christians, and by the way, he used to be involved in his youth group in his church and all the rest, he was there. How do you Christians take the death and resurrection of a man and make that boring? How do we make that boring? He is literally the author of life. Shouldn't that excite us? Shouldn't that cause us to wonder? Shouldn't that cause us to just go, wow? There's a lot of things that we as Christians have now downgraded. The otherness of God, that he is not creation, that he is not nature, that he's not my buddy. There's a relationship, but a relationship in the sense of the Father bringing in his prodigal.
Because we all are prodigals.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
And the flesh can never be redeemed.
Bingo.
Yeah.
We've missed all of that.
Dr. Michael Lake and I have talked about this before, that I've been in places, and I grew up in a Calvary chapel where every Sunday night there were what we called afterglows, which we'd have, and it was done in a really cool way. The pastor would preach, I would lead worship. So at the end of the service, after we would hear the word, the pastor would step down, the elders would come forward, so you'd have this line of men, and sometimes women, but more often just men up there with the pastor, all in front of the stage. And I would do one worship song, and the congregation would settle, and we'd wait on the Lord. And the Spirit of the living God would begin to move. If someone had a tongue but there was no interpretation, then that person was out of order, and they were called out of order in a loving, decent way. So we watched the Spirit of the living God move, and oftentimes there would be a prophecy, someone would have a tongue, someone would have an interpretation, someone would have a word, and it would go right down the line, 10 or 12 people. And in this way, we practiced first century Christianity. Of course, all that's gone now, especially in Calvary chapels, which really cut their teeth on that. And that experience is what drew the hippies at Chuck Smith's church in the 60s. That's what drew everyone, because the Spirit of the living God was there. And as Dr. Lake talks about, that when he shows up, people eat carpet. It's not this goofy running around stage yelling and screaming and slapping people and people falling backwards, although the Spirit can manifest that way, but it's always done decently in order. I just want to say one thing. A while back, I was on a television set, and I won't tell you who it was, and they had this televangelist guy there, and he was working the crowd, blowing into the microphone. I've seen all this before, and people were falling backwards and falling backwards. Well, he had 3 of his guys come and get me, and I wanted to resist, and I didn't, and I should have, and I know better than that. And he blew into the microphone, and boom, right in my solar plexus, I was hit, and I went down. He did it 3 times. And after that, I experienced heavy, very heavy demonic oppression, which lasted for months until I finally went to the Lord and said, why is this happening? And the Lord sort of, said, look, you know better than this. You come from this, and you allowed someone to take you and do this over you. So in other words, some of these people that go to these things and everything, it's all the Holy Spirit, it's all this, and it's not.
No.
And this is part of what you do. I mean, you've seen the Kundalini serpent spirit at work. Talk about the difference between when the Holy Spirit shows up and when the imposters show up.
Okay, one of the things we need to keep in mind that one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control.
There you go.
Okay? And self-control, and this is one of the reasons why the hyper-charismatic side goes way off eventually.
Way off, yeah,
Way
I agree.
off,
I agree.
because there's a loss of self-control. And that is one of the fruits of the Spirit. Okay? There is correlations that happen between what I see in some of the charismatic movement, charismania movement. Let me rephrase that, because I have friends in the charismatic movement.
And I consider myself a charismatic Christian.
And I know that.
You do too.
And they're not. It's not that they now are being controlled in a strange way.
Right.
But we have allowed that to become the sensation. And so we chase after it. There is a real interesting correlation between what I sometimes see in the occult world, in the readings I've done, the research I've done, just the observations I've made, where there is that ecstatic experience where in the moment of the ritual, because I've encountered and witnessed a few rituals, where the energy and the excitement absolutely draws people in, and there is a loss of self-control. And you're going, okay, who's really there? What's really happening?
Yeah,
who's
what's
in
really
charge?
happening, right.
What is really happening? Especially when you look at things like transpossession, transprophecy, which is an element that occurs in the Wiccan community, where you are possessed by a spirit for a particular time to engage in things, to engage in supernatural acts. And
An example of that would be like automatic writing.
yes, that can definitely be one of them. And as Christians, I'm going, okay, we have to make sure that when we are engaging in worship, or whatever the corporate or even the individual experience is in worship, that we're doing it with the right motive, that we're grounded in the word of truth first, that the fruit of the Spirit of self-control is evident. There's a number of indicators, and it's really, really important. I wrestle, and I have wrestled a lot. You can talk to my wife, you can talk to my kids. I wrestle a lot with what is the difference between the spiritual experiences that I have seen in the occult or the pagan side of it, and the spiritual experiences I've seen and within the Christian side. And I'm realizing that too often, way too often, there's really not a lot of difference. They merge.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. And I'm going, okay, we have to be super, super careful. Experiences are real. I don't discount experiences at all. But all experiences, all of them, need to be measured against God's word.
And that
because that's our
is the
standard.
litmus test. That's the standard.
That's the standard.
If it goes against God's word, you got to throw it out immediately. I don't care how good it sounds,
Right.
Or what you know
Right,
what seems
right.
to be happening.
And so we have elements of, I'm going to call this what it is, Christian occultism.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay?
That's exactly what it
Where
is.
it becomes a technique.
Yeah.
The technique drives the experience. That's a danger.
There was a guy, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble here, but there's a guy at a very well-known church who was up on stage, and I watched the YouTube clip, and I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And he was sanctioned by the leadership to do what he was doing, a young guy. And he's up there doing this finger snapping stuff. He's kind of moving his hips like this, and he's bringing in something. Well, he brought in something, and people that were there went, and they were being oppressed demonically. And there was a YouTube thing, and of course the pastor came up and repented, and this guy's got counseling. The bottom line is, why did they allow this guy to get up on stage and do this kind of nonsense in the first place? There was a well-known evangelist, and I mean, I'll just say it. When Todd Bentley did all of his shenanigans down in Florida, I watched that whole thing for a solid month. Every night I watched it, and I was, part of me wanted to believe that this was a revival, this was really going on. But having come out of the occult world, having been in an ashram for 3 years, having had my third eye open and all that Kundalini nonsense, which of course I repented, and that's 45 years ago, okay? So I was looking at that and going, this isn't right. And then he would talk about Emma, his female angel. And
Right.
there's this one early shot of Bentley where he talks about being taken and placed on a metal table, and his innards are taken out and put back in. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, the guy's been abducted. It's exactly what it sounds like.
Right.
So I don't know whether you followed him, but this whole
I
thing.
remember
of
when it was a sensation.
fire, and
Right.
people would come back, and people were tormented. It's not everybody,
Right.
but some people were tormented by the nonsense for months
Right.
afterwards. Your thoughts?
Well, at the very, very least, there was suggestibility in play. Okay, at the very, very least. And the human mind is very open to suggestibility. We know how that works. And so, at the very minimum, I see suggestibility built on really unbiblical teachings, completely unbiblical teachings. Let's call it what it is. It's not biblical. What was happening, sorry, doesn't fit the bill.
I completely concur.
Okay.
I agree.
And then on the other side of it, I'm taking the suggestibility as the best case scenario. On the other side of it, all the way, there is a supernatural demonic activity that is happening. There is something going on as well.
And it's luring people into a false gospel, a false narrative, a false relationship with a spirit. It's not the Holy Spirit; it's
Right.
another spirit.
Right.
We're kind of coming up to the hour here, but what's the takeaway? In other words, there are. And let me just get one here. I know you know the page count, but I wanted to just give it to the folks. There's well over 545 pages, something like that.
Yeah,
500
and then when you throw in the index 570.
Yeah. Okay, 570 pages. What's the takeaway here? What's the takeaway?
Takeaway, let me just read you the takeaway.
Please.
Okay, it's on the back. And by the way, this came to me literally the last day that I put pen to paper, right before, hours before I sent this off to the printer, okay? And this was
So this is the Holy Spirit.
yeah, and my wife, and we were driving home from church.
I know what that is. I know what that is.
It was kind of weird.
It's
But it was
wonderful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to sum it up, and we were talking, and just all of a sudden, bam. This is it.
I'm going to read along with you.
Okay. Humanity has three great desires: to be as God, to be masters of meaning and destiny, to build heaven on earth. This is that story. This is that story. You could pack it all down to that. It is a survey, and that's really what this book is, a research intent survey.
So
Unpacking mankind's desire to be as God, to be masters of meaning and
it's
destiny.
right back to Genesis
heaven on-
in the
yeah.
garden.
That's right.
Nothing has
Heaven on
changed.
earth.
It's the same old lie,
is the
and
same.
we bite on it constantly.
Oh, absolutely.
And here we are.
Yes, yes.
And I just want to ask you something. I find it incredibly alarming. We're both at this conference here in Lima, Ohio, and it's been a great conference, and some wonderful speakers. Dr. Lake was here, for instance, Russ Dizdar, and a host of other wonderful speakers, and some people I've never heard before. So it was a pleasure to hear some new information. But there's very few young people here.
I know.
Very few young people. It's mostly the over 50 crowd, and I'm over 50, so I'm not knocking that.
Likewise.
Yeah, but it's the over 50 crowd, and we have lost the youth, which circles us back to the very first question: why are people leaving the church and being attracted to the new age? What can we do to make a difference? What can we as Christians do to draw people back to the true gospel, to the true good news?
Can I give you a suggestion when it comes
Please.
to youth? It's not about programming.
No, it's not.
Okay, it's not about the lights. We cannot compete with the world because that's not what we're supposed to do.
Right.
We're supposed to present truth and love. And so, how about we as Christians spend the time to be one-on-one with the youth around us? Okay? My wife and I lead a small group Bible study in our home every Wednesday. They're young men and women from the ages of 18 to the early 30s. Sometimes there's only 4 or 5 that show up. Sometimes there's 12 or 15 that show up. And we try to invest a little bit of our life and together with their lives. And we'll discuss some pretty hard stuff, some pretty good stuff. But they're hungry. They're hungry to be taught. They're hungry to know. They are looking for something. They're looking for direction. These are mostly Christians who come. Sometimes we have people who are struggling in their faith, but it's a safe place to ask hard questions.
And that's good. That's wonderful.
We need a place to do that. So the men who are over 40, the women who are over 40 and 50, like us, yeah, let's invest ourselves in those lives. That's really what it boils down to, investing in lives.
Folks, there it is, Game of Gods, Carl Teichrib, and it's in our bookstore, www.lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net, and I have not, again, I've looked at the index and kind of scrolled through a little bit of it. I will dive in soon. It's been on the stack for a while. The stack. I read something and the stack just keeps growing, so that's how that works, but I can't wait to dive in. Thank you so much, Carl.
Right,
God
thank
bless you.
Awesome.
And folks, keep him in prayer. Carl is literally on the front lines. One question I didn't have time to ask, but how does one prep to go to Burning Man? He's called to do this. It's not for everybody.
Right.
And you need to be called before you start wandering in and do what he does. But thank you for what you do, and it's a great asset to the body of Messiah.
Well, thank you, LA. This was good.
Absolutely. Remember, folks, we'll see you on the air or in the air. Thanks for watching.